Hello, welcome back to the AAT'S podcast with myself, Adi of AAT'S. We are now on episode 17, and as always, proudly joined in the studio with the one and only
Aidan Riley.
Good afternoon, Aidan.
Good afternoon, Adi. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Yourself?
Not bad, not bad.
So today we're talking about a TV series. So this was quite a legendary show for its time. It had everything: style, charisma, fashion. It basically set men's fashion in that time, didn't it, during the 80s?
Well, you can tell why it did. I mean, everything about the show was just immaculate. The dress sense, the cars, the sunglasses.
Yeah.
Just everything about the shoes. Sort of, yeah, man. The whole thing about the show. I only watched one episode.
Yeah.
And and that episode just blew me away. Like I said, man, fashion.
Because I say that was the men's fashion.
Especially Crockett.
Definitely.
Crockett,
so now he's giving it away who we're talking about. So, well, actually, the name will be on the title anyway. So we are talking about the legendary show Miami Vice, which starred Don Johnson and Philip Michael Thomas. They both played legendary police officers. James Sonny Crockett, that was Don Johnson, and you had Ricardo Tubbs by Philip Michael Thomas. And they were just the coolest police officers ever. They weren't meant to look like police officers and act like them.
Well, there's vice cops, weren't there? Yeah. They had to look like,
the people who were taken down.
Yeah, drug dealers.
Drug dealers, armed suppliers, weapon suppliers, everything.
Always undercover.
Always undercover. And Crockett lived on a boat to make it look very undercover.
With something that we'll speak of later.
Definitely. So you watched the first episode. What did you think of that?
Although the first episode, there was a lot of scenes in there that I thought, it did feel like a film.
It did.
Obviously, because it was 1.5 hours long. It's you don't get many shows now that will have an hour and a half long episode.
Pilot episode.
Yeah, exactly. But the whole scope of it. From the characters, from the story, especially when Tubbs debuts, where you just this is actually one of my favourite scenes. So I'm not really going to go into it, but there's a moment in there where he just looks like an absolute badass, and the people have to leave him alone because he's carrying a certain something in the car. But obviously, I'll explain that later when we talk about favourite scenes.
Definitely, yeah.
And there's the comedy in it. The quotes, the swagger, just everything about even the setting, the setting, like the sunsets, the amazing.
They were characters within themselves.
Yes, and it's just everything about the episode, and obviously the whole series. But yeah, I mean, I'm definitely going to keep watching this show after I finish watching what I'm watching now.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to be watching this because I just love the whole aspect of it, the everything about the show.
Yeah, it was.
And the soundtrack is just
the soundtrack is just amazing.
Else, the soundtrack.
And a lot of people got their start on this show. And what was a great interesting thing about it? It didn't look like other police shows at the time. Like there was a show during its time called Hill Street Blues. That was all set in. That was obviously all set in a police station. They were all like uniformed police officers. This stood out from it. And then you also had beforehand. You had Starsky and Hutch. Again, Starsky and Hutch was a classic show as well. And that was a bit before our time. And but Miami Vice was definitely the show that made me love cop shows. This was actually my favorite cop show of all time, and it always will be. Nothing will ever come close to this.
And The Wire. Sorry. All right, we'll talk about The Wire.
No, we will eventually talk about it. This guy's been recommending me to watch The Wire, bless him.
It's
so,
a great show.
I'm going to take his recommendation.
If anyone's seen The Wire, let us know in the comments and just let us know how awesome it is. Addy's you're going to watch it anyway,
definitely,
but this will give you a bigger incentive to watch it when you get all these comments about it.
Cool. All right. You know what's really, you just giving me an idea. If they had to remake this again into a movie, I think in a way Idris Elba would make a great Ricardo Tubbs.
I think you're right.
This just occurred to me.
He's badass. He was badass as Luther. I've watched Luther. Brilliant show. Luther's a different animal to Tubbs.
Yeah.
But I've watched it watched quite a few of, especially in The Wire.
Yeah.
His sense of humor in that and his style in that is just amazing. So if he can pull that off, he can definitely pull off a Tubbs.
Definitely.
Because
Yeah.
Tubbs is all about style, swagger, attitude. He's all about
calm.
smart as well, man.
He's very between the two of them.
He's very detective. He's just switched on.
I think definitely between the two of them, Tubbs
is more switched on.
He's more street smart than Crockett. Crockett knows the game. He knows how to chat to people. He knows how to hang out. He knows how to blend into the environment he's in. Like, for example,
he lives there though, doesn't he? Because he does say that to Tubbs. He goes, "Look, we're in Miami now, pal.
Yeah.
You know, this isn't New York City.
This is Miami, pal.
This is Miami, pal.
Well, you can't tell the place without a program.
Yeah.
Down here, you just another
Everybody looks the same. Yeah. just love how he brings Tubbs down to reality.
He does a bit, yeah. That's one. But Crockett's very, like I said, he's very smart himself as well, isn't he?
Yeah,
definitely. And he's a great character, Sonny Crockett. And like going into the character details now. So, okay, no, finishing off with the pilot. So the story of the pilot was, you have Ricardo Tubbs as a New York police officer who works in the armed robbery department.
Yep. And
his brother's been killed, and the dealer who set up the murder has fled to Miami. And he goes, and he goes down there to try and bring him to justice or even kill him because he wants revenge. And there he meets, James Sonny Crockett.
Yeah, but
Sonny's
unintentionally.
Yeah, but how they met was quite cool.
It was funny how they met, because obviously this is what I love about it. It's what I love about Tubbs, because no one would dare to do that to Crockett. Obviously, it helped him that he didn't know him. If he knew him, exactly. He may have thought twice about stealing his boat.
That was funny. You beast, you! When he says that.
Yeah.
And he says that when he's driving the boat. And then the other, so he meets Sonny Crockett unintentionally, and then they both realise that they're after the same person. And whereas their Lieutenant Rodriguez suggests, why don't you guys just team up together instead of punching each other's face in?
Crockett to a while to actually agree to it, though.
Yeah, it does. But that was still quite cool when he says, there's no investigation without me.
Yeah.
And one line I love he says in that, when he goes, there is no investigation without me, Crockett. Calderon would back out this place so fast we'll make your badge spin.
That's a good line.
That was a good line. I like it.
There's a lot of good lines. There's a lot of good lines in this show.
That was one of my favourites as well. And so we'll get into the quote section in a bit as well. And so that was a good line. And so they meet each other and then they realise, okay, we're after the same guy. We're both police officers. Why don't we just work together and get on with it? Crockett doesn't like to do it. He's kind of like the go at you alone, gung ho type person.
Well, ever since his partner dies, he doesn't want anybody anymore, does he? He just said, look, he's going to work alone. He wants to work alone.
Yeah.
And what does he say? I'm not working with this. I forgot what he says. He just lays
outlaw cop.
Yeah. I'm not working. No, that's what he says when he finds out about
who he really was.
Yeah, because obviously his real name it's not Tubbs, is it?
No, it is Tubbs.
Oh yeah, but what was his alias?
Raphael.
Yeah.
Oh, no, you mean Teddy Prentice?
Yeah.
Sorry, it's funny how
he was basically because that was his brother's name.
Yeah, so Raphael.
Yeah, and obviously Calderon. That's why he's after him, because Calderon killed him.
Yeah. So
now he's gone all the way down to Miami to gain vengeance. And that's when Crockett says to him, vengeance doesn't solve anything. It's all about being smart. If you're going to be going in there all vengeful, we're all going to get hurt.
Yeah, the wrong people get killed.
Yes. And that's another favourite. There's a lot of good lines in this. That's another thing I love about this show. There's a lot of good lines that make sense. You get some shows that they just say something, you go, what's the point of saying that?
Yeah, exactly. You do get shows like that. So moving into characters now, favourite bit. Since Sonny Crockett was one of the most legendary characters on TV history, basically in all motion pictures, I would say. Because this kind of looked like apparently every episode was over $1 million worth of budget at its time.
What?
At that time, yeah, $1 million. It could have been, I think, 1.4 million per episode.
Man, they really believed in this production.
They did, and if it hadn't, it never would have become the success as it was today. So moving into something.
Mostly the cars.
Oh yeah,
it was the
fashion.
Cars. Yeah, the cars, clothes. That's what did it.
Definitely. And then, right, so moving into character details, you have Sonny Crockett. His real name's James Sonny Crockett. He's a former football player. Then he leaves it all to go into Vietnam. And then he comes back and joins the police force. He's divorced with a son who he loves so much.
6 years old.
Yeah, and he loves so much. And then he goes into the, and then he becomes a vice police officer who has to live under the alias Sonny Burnett, who's just some hard partying Miami guy who just has a boat, lives on a boat, has a speedboat that's worth over 100 grand, and he drives a Ferrari, wears Giorgio Armani clothing, which was quite huge at its time. Versace clothing again, which was quite huge at its time. Still is big. But that show kind of transcended them.
Yeah, man, they said that.
It did, because I got a funny story how they came up with the fashion idea, which I'll tell later.
Okay.
And Sonny Crockett, he's one thing he's very famous for. You can guess it as well.
His car.
One thing, but
his jacket.
His stubble. His 3-day stubble. If you look at him, he's never shaven. He's always got the designer stubble.
He always looks rugged, doesn't he? He
does, yeah.
Ready,
and I've
got
an interesting story how Don Johnson, who played Sonny Crockett, got casted, which I'm going to tell later as well.
Okay.
And so you meet, then like I said, he has to look, act, breathe, party like a drug dealer. So nobody knows he's a police officer. Hence why living on the boat, Ferrari outside, fashionable clothing. And that's it. Even the sunglasses looked extremely fashionable.
Yeah,
as well.
The sunglasses were great. You got the sunglasses.
Oh yeah, you have to. You have to love the sunglasses.
And the jacket to go with it, the jacket.
Oh.
Everything about it, man.
The white blazers.
Yes.
Yeah, the white blazer. One fashion bit that cracked me up about Crockett was what he wears sometimes, where he wore the white trousers. I think it was a turquoise shirt.
Yeah, I remember that.
And the white shoes and a peach blazer. That was quite a funny combination put together.
It worked though.
But it worked, and he could pull it off.
Yeah.
You know, one funny thing about Graham Norton, who not going off topic.
Yeah. Graham
Norton, who once interviewed Don Johnson years later, he says, Don Johnson, without you, we would never have the 80s. It'd be 1979, 1990. He actually said that on one of his episodes.
Yeah.
I kind of agree with that.
Yeah,
because Don Johnson was one guy everybody tried to imitate.
He was the epitome of the 80s.
He was. Him, I would say him, definitely Mr. T. I'm talking about the TV series, not going into movies. TV series, you'd have definitely Don Johnson on top of the list. You'd have Mr. T. And a third one, maybe a far third one, David Hasselhoff as Michael Knight in Knight Rider.
Yeah.
People did try.
The style, every single one of them had style.
Yeah.
B.A. Baracus with his jewelry,
gold chains. Yeah.
Obviously Miami Vice. Don Johnson with his white blazer and his cool sunglasses and his shoes
and the unshaven stubble.
Yeah, the unshaven stubble. He had good hair as well.
Yeah.
And then obviously you had the what was it? David Hasselhoff with black leather jacket. He's all black.
Yeah.
And he has sunglasses too.
That's true.
And he had the big hair.
That's true.
That's the 80s. That's
it was the 80s. It definitely was the 80s. Yeah.
Different styles from the 80s.
You also had another guy in it as well, Jan Michael Vincent, who portrayed Stringfellow Hawk in Airwolf, which we're going to talk about down the line as well. He had quite a cool style as well back in them days. He had quite good swagger, and he was earning over, I think, 200 grand per episode for Airwolf.
Wow.
That was a lot of money to pay.
That is a lot, especially back then.
Back then, yeah, definitely. Now, moving on to another character, Ricardo Tubbs. Since he was your favourite, I've given my favourite as well. So you go for Ricardo Tubbs.
Well, I know we're going to talk about favourite scenes later, but I've got to mention this scene.
Go.
This is why I fell in love with the character, because he's in the car and he's waiting for Calderone.
Yeah.
And it's the streets, it looks quite rough. If I was him, I would definitely not be waiting around there, because I'd be thinking somebody might rob my car in a minute.
Yeah.
I'd be quite concerned, but obviously with him You get these three guys come up to him, knock on his window.
Yo, brother.
Yeah, yo, brother. What you do, man? I never seen you around here before. And he's like, he just winds. Next minute, he's like winds down the window, just looks at him like that. And he just goes, what does he say? He goes, beat it, punks. It's like, I'm not in the mood. He just pulls out the shotgun.
A sawed-off shotgun. And like,
they're like,
the one guy was like, I'm going to cut you good. He goes, can I wait? I'm kind of busy.
Yeah, kind of wait. Yeah, that's what he said. Can I wait? I'm kind of busy. And it's the shot is like, okay, let's go. And they all just leave. They all just walk away. But if it was ever him, I mean, what I love about him too is the way he can switch from accents.
Yeah.
You know, how awesome he's at the Jamaican man. He's got the Jamaican accent, and then
He puts a really good one in a few episodes online where he puts on a South African accent.
Oh, wow. See, that's what I mean. He's so versatile. And he also matches Crockett's personality, which Crockett gets surprised by this a few times, especially when he first runs into him. And he also matches him with his punches. That's another favourite scene, which I'll mention down the line.
Done.
I just love how he matches, because not only does Crockett have his suspicions with them being a mole in the police department, because everywhere they go, somebody else is there, and every time they try and nearly get something sold, it unravels and everything has to be solved again.
Yeah.
And also with Rodriguez as well, which will come later down the line. But when Tubbs says to Crockett, you know, there might be a mole in your police department, you ever thought about investigating Rodriguez? And then Crockett says to him, leave him out of it, I've known him for a long time. Don't touch it. This is my police department, not yours. You're in New York City. If you want to do some investigation work, go back home. I ain't got time for this. Right? And then obviously Tubbs does it anyway. He investigates him anyway.
He does.
He's like, what did I tell you about doing that? And he's like, look, this is what I found.
Yeah.
What about all these funds that he's got available? Thousands of pounds to get, you know, a holiday or...
No, the kid getting into a private school.
And he's like, that's a bit of a strange thing, isn't it? Don't you think, Crockett? And he's like, I think that's quite a lot of money. So he just matches his thinking, his personality, and that's what I love about him. You know, that's why both of them are so awesome together, because they're made for each other.
Yeah, they were. I mean, it's a good thing that how their paths crossed and everything.
Yeah, it was great.
And yeah, that was a great thing. And the one good thing I like about Tubbs, like I said, he is very street smart.
Yes,
he's a very street smart character.
You're from New York City, you got to be, man.
Definitely.
It's Brooklyn, wasn't it?
I think it was no. Yeah, I think it might have been Brooklyn. Yeah, you mentioned it. Moving on to another character, Trudy, played by Olivia Brown, who's one of the female lead actors on that show. Trudy, obviously, they all work vice. Her and her partner Gina.
Yeah, they both play prostitutes, right?
They're like on corners to like, and then all the guys in there like, or when they come in costume, goes, I got to be in costume out on the street, and all the guys are always eyeing her up, but she's got her eye on Crockett, and like, I mean, Crockett's got his eye on her. Gotta admit, I did have a huge crush on her growing up.
What's it?
Gina, she was beautiful.
I can see why Crockett, you know, wanted to be with her.
Yeah, that's true. They did. I mean, like, yeah, you had guys on there who fancied Gina, and then, like I said, they both have to work and she's like very caring for him. The one thing I like about her,
she speaks sense to him a lot of the times as well, especially when they're on the boat together after the night out.
Yeah.
And you know, and then she gets angry at him when he wakes up, and he's like,
"Where's she gone?
What's wrong?" It's like, guess. And you're like, oh no, what's he doing?
He screwed up.
What's he doing? And then he just walks into the women's toilets where she is. And you're like, that's typical him.
Still, yeah, that was a really good scene. But she was a really good character. And over the years in the show, she becomes really caring towards him. And she's like, not just to him, but to like everybody in the department as well. And going into, Trudy and Gina, like I said, they're both very street smart characters. They play good female counterparts to Crockett and Tubbs.
Yep.
They're really good counterparts.
Well, I think Gina has I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. You've watched the whole series, but I think she has the potential to be like Crockett.
In a way, yeah.
In a way, like to match him, and so is Trudy to be like Tubbs. It's like
Yeah.
they're like you said, they're all the female counterparts of Tubbs and Crockett.
Yeah.
And so that's me. Like I said, man, I love the show, man. I just love the first episode.
Okay, moving on to two more characters who play good counterparts: Switek and Zito.
Yeah,
They are funny, them two. One of my favourite scenes when you meet them for the very first time is when after that car's been blown up and the dogs are sniffing the cocaine, and they goes, "Those dogs are going to be up for a whole week."
Yeah, that's it.
And
And then what this Rodriguez says is like, you guys have some strange ass humor, guys.
Yeah, you
dark
said that,
humor, and they just look at each other and go, "Sorry, boss."
That was funny. Another funny scene is, when they arrive to the scene a bit early, and then everyone's made a run for it, and Crockett's like, "A bit early on you airheads." And they're looking at each other like,
"What have we done now?"
I didn't do nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong.
It's always their fault. They're like, "Why are you? It's always our fault. It's always our fault." That's what it
is. True. But the good thing about them two is Crockett and Tubbs are very serious. Tubbs is a bit more cool, suave, and calm. Switek and Zito, they're very
laid back.
They are very laid back. They're a bit more lazy, I would say.
Yeah, they are.
And then they make great counterparts to them too as well.
Yeah.
Like everybody kind of bounces off Crockett and Tubbs, even though they are the main characters of that show. But still, they were great characters to bounce off at. They were like all the time when Crockett comes in, and it's a room full of guys. Right, girls, be ready for turn. And then like when Switek makes fun of Crockett's shirt, and goes, "Did you buy that?"
Yeah.
And he goes,
"It's like, you're only saying that because I said something
your
about
lady
mom.
brought it me,
Yeah,
and it
yeah.
wasn't my birthday." That was good.
It wasn't you're only saying that because your old lady brought it me, and it wasn't even my birthday. And everyone was like, "Oh,"
which was quite funny. Yeah, which was quite a funny.
That's
scene.
the last guy you want to diss.
Who? Crockett.
Oh
no, he's too quick.
He would bang.
He's got a quick wit.
Yeah, you don't mess with quick-witted people. You know a quick-witted person, don't take the piss out of them. So
no chance. No chance.
They'll kill you off. If you know a guy like Crockett, just don't joke about him.
Yeah, that is true. Alright, moving on to one last character, Lieutenant Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Who's known Crockett for many years. You can tell the way they talk. He's kind of like the big brother of Crockett.
Yeah, and Crockett looks up to him as well.
He does, and he refuses to hear anything bad about him. Whereas when Tubbs has mentioned to him that, you can explain this one, and he's like, "Oh, you've done investigation on my friends." He goes, "I'll explain it to you sometime," and he says the same thing to him as well.
Yeah, he does, and that's what makes Crockett suspicious about Rodriguez.
Yeah,
because again, that's why I love Tubbs so much, because Crockett told him not to do it.
but he goes ahead and does it.
Just goes ahead and does it anyway, and when when you first realise that it could be true, is when Crockett says to Rodriguez, "Oh, well done about getting your kid into this." And then he mentions the school.
Yeah,
and it's like, none of my business, but it's a lot of money. Rodriguez, in such a, like a middle class kind of job.
it's hard to make that on a lieutenant salary.
Yeah, so you're a lieutenant and you're making this much money, and he's like, look, Crockett, if you want to know, just ask. And then he asks, and he goes, "None of your damn business."
Yeah,
and you think, ooh, this is okay. Tubbs is right. He's got to be right.
Yeah,
the way he looks at him is like, none of your damn business.
Yeah, he was right.
And Crockett's like, shit, this is bad.
Yeah.
I've known you for a long time, and I've really just met this guy named Tubbs, and he's already unravelled you, and here's me after all these years.
Yeah.
But he was blinded by friendship, wasn't he?
He was, yeah.
It's a shame though, because obviously when you've known somebody for that long and you end up being corrupt, even though a lot of police departments are like that as well, you know what I mean? But it's like, that's what I love about Tubbs,
He's too quick.
He comes in and he just shakes things up.
He kind of brings reality to everybody. He kind of does that. He kind of makes them see the sense of reality to them.
Well, when you're from a place like New York,
yeah,
he's seen a lot.
Yeah, he has.
So you know, he's probably like, yeah, this seems a little bit cushy to me. You know, something might be up.
Yeah.
And then obviously he tells him about Rodriguez, and now Crockett's like, oh man, I told you not to do it, but I'm glad you did it, because now we can get this guy removed. I don't know what happens next, because I only watched one episode, but I'm surely that probably could be the case, because they won't ignore that, will they?
No, not really. Well, I'll tell you what happens afterwards.
Okay.
Well, a little bit, not too
Yeah,
much.
yeah, because I want to watch this.
Okay, that's cool. So, okay, now moving on to the casting of the actors.
Okay, I'm looking forward to this. This is all you.
Okay, so see, this is all me, as he says. Right. So how it came by casting Sonny Crockett, they wanted a guy who had to look like a real vice cop. That's what they wanted. They had to add a big sense of realism to it. And beforehand, Don Johnson had 5 failed pilots before he got the job on. 5 failed pilots before he got the job on Miami Vice. And they originally didn't want him on the show. Now, they looked at other actors and everything. They looked at guys from other shows, but they said, like, no, other people have played police officers, give somebody else a chance. Now, he went out one night and he went on a stakeout with the proper vice officers. He turned up the next day, he looked tired, unshaven, and his hair was a mess. And they said, that's exactly how a vice cop would look after a night stakeout. And they looked at him and they said, all right, give him the part.
Ah, yes.
Got the part right there and then. And they needed somebody to have basically get into looking who could be the best counterpart to play, you know, Don Johnson's Sonny Crockett. They looked at a lot of actors. Did you know, even, this is gonna shock everyone, did you know Denzel Washington was considered to play Tubbs?
That's awesome.
And did you know who else got considered to play Sonny Crockett? Mickey Rourke. Back in them days, Mickey Rourke was a top notch.
I can see him playing Crockett.
He was a good-looking guy.
Yeah.
He had everything going for him, and
I can see Denzel Washington playing Tubbs as well.
In a way, yeah.
Yeah,
maybe I don't know, but nobody but Philip Michael Thomas could play Tubbs.
I know, but you know, with the other films and shows that we've spoke about in the past, and you've mentioned some people, I'm going, nah, he wouldn't fit. I'm glad he didn't do it.
Yeah,
I'm glad he didn't do it. Denzel Washington,
definitely.
Mickey Rourke, they could have played Crockett and Tubbs, man. No, not a doubt in my mind. Those two are awesome actors, versatile. No doubt that they could have played them.
Yeah, definitely.
But I'm glad they didn't, because again, you know,
and
these two guys that did it, they were
legend.
Yeah,
still legend even to today.
Yeah.
Do you know, even years later? Now, Miami Vice was over 35 years ago. Do you know, even until now, Don Johnson and Phil Michael Thomas are still great friends?
Yeah, well,
they still keep in touch.
I don't forget about the Grand Theft Auto game, Miami Vice City.
I remember that one as well.
You know, the guy Tommy Vercetti. You know, he had the white coat, he had the white blazer.
Yeah, because it's set back in the 80s.
Yeah, but who did that remind you of, man?
Sonny Crockett. Yeah. And then you had Lance Vance, who's actually voiced by Tubbs himself.
Is he?
Yeah. That voiced by Phil Michael Thomas.
So it was inspired, right? If you know, this came out in the year 2001, so obviously we played this game when we was 14 and 18 years old. But you know, it was that was a big game. But now I've watched this. Now I've watched the first episode of Miami Vice.
Yeah.
When I thought of that game, Vice City, it immediately merged them both together and thought, yeah, this was definitely kind of inspired by that show.
Definitely,
like a lot of things were.
Yeah, definitely it was. And then what happened was when
especially the fashion and the settings.
Yeah, and also, did you know who else also got considered to play the part of Sonny Crockett? Richard Dean Anderson. Now, who did he go off famously to play?
Remind me.
Right, I'll give you a hint. A guy whose biggest weapon was his intelligence.
MacGyver.
Yeah. I think in a way he would have been quite good in that role. But I think he would have played, his Sonny Crockett would have been a too serious Sonny Crockett.
No, it wouldn't have been like Don Johnson's
Sonny Crockett. No,
yeah, I mean, Sonny Crockett needed that kind of persona.
He did, yeah.
And because if they would have got him to do it, and then the guy that played what's his name? The guy that played Tubbs.
Philip Michael Thomas.
If they would have casted Phil Michael Thomas and not casted Don Johnson, it wouldn't have looked right. For me, it wouldn't have seemed good enough.
Yeah.
That partnership, and they wouldn't have bounced off each other as good. It just wouldn't look good on screen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely wouldn't it?
But Don Johnson and Thomas, they just looked great together, man. They just looked really good together. The chemistry was really good.
Without a doubt, I love. You know how you have certain actors who make great on-screen teams.
We spoke about one of them, Kurt Russell and Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah,
those two were awesome together.
Exactly.
In Tango and Cash.
Exactly, and same thing applies even on this show as well. Same thing even applied when we spoke about Red Heat. You had Schwarzenegger and Belushi made a great on-screen
really
team.
Good together. Great, just brilliant chemistry.
Definitely. And then what happened was, on the way, when these two guys were auditioning for the role, they auditioned basically Philip Michael Thomas was somebody else, Don Johnson was someone else. And then on the way out, I think one of the producers said to them, "Why don't you two read together?"
That was great.
No, because why? Because just read together. Read together, and they went, "All right, we just found out Crockett and Toby." That was it, and they just got
it's
the
natural.
there and then, yeah.
It's natural. That's why it looks so good on screen, because it's natural. It's not forced.
It was, yeah. And then what happened was, a few episodes down the line of season 1, they recasted the lieutenant. They basically, sorry to give it away, they kill off Rodriguez.
Just says give off a warning signal.
Yeah. They kill off Rodriguez, and they bring in Lieutenant Martin Castillo. Yeah, there's an episode, I think, episode 5, 6, or maybe 7.
Why did they kill him off?
Because what happened was, there's a hitman, a Calderon.
Did the guy act to do something?
No.
So it was an actual kill-off.
What they wanted to do was, they wanted to make the show a bit more serious. They wanted to get rid of all the comedy aspects. Like, for example, name one thing that was a bit of a comedy aspect.
Well, you had the two, didn't you? So what the names? The
Swaito and Zito. Hang on. Zito and Switek. Yeah. No, they were still on the show. Elvis, yeah, the Crockett's pet alligator who lives on the boat with him.
Yeah, that's it.
And they got rid of him, and they got rid of Rodriguez, and they brought in Lieutenant Martin Castillo.
Got rid of Elvis.
Huh?
They got rid of Elvis.
Well, they said it was just too comedy. They wanted to make the show a bit more serious.
Okay.
They brought in.
I'm kind of glad they did that.
I think it was as well, because you didn't see much of him anyway. And then what happened was, they brought in the actor Edward James Olmos to play Lieutenant Martin Castillo. He was just complete. He could not play that character any more serious. I'll tell you what. In the very first time you meet Lieutenant Castillo, he walks into the department, and he's asking everybody, "Where's my office?" And he goes, "I can't help you. I can't help you. No, go talk to somebody else." Whistles so loud, everybody stops in their shoes. Basically stops right there, and he goes. He makes the whistle, and he goes, "I'm Lieutenant Castillo. I'm your new boss. Can somebody show me where my office is?" And Trudy goes, "It's over there in the corner." Nods his head and carries on going. Everyone moves out of his way.
Oh, everyone moves up. Just
separates from there. Separates from there.
It's like this parting of the Dead Sea. That is amazing.
It was, and then he came up with a great idea for his character. When he walked in, he said on the first day he was hired to play Lieutenant Castillo, they said, you got to dress like this, you got to dress like that. He goes, "No, I'm going to choose my own dressing suit." He was basically, I think he was a method actor, and it transcended properly on screen. He was saying to people, "I don't want to dress like this. I want to wear plain clothes, black trousers, a white shirt, and the most thin black tie." Most of the series, that's how Lieutenant Castillo would dress. He goes, when he comes in, there's books, there's files. He goes, "I don't want anything in here. I want no books, no files, no paperwork on my desk. I want it completely cleared away."
Wow.
His job was to give other people the job to do.
Yeah, that's true. He's a lieutenant.
A lieutenant, yeah. And then, believe it or not, in the first few episodes, Lieutenant Edward James Olmos and Don Johnson often argued about their different acting style. They actually argued.
There's always a bit of a disputes on set, isn't there?
It was. And then what happened was basically when he was working on, when they were saying to him, when he would not let anybody come in the office without knocking on the door. You do not walk in the office like that. Like whereas Rodriguez would just let anybody in. Castillo was never like that. It was, come to my door and talk to me.
More professional.
Yeah, come to the door and knock on. You don't knock on, I'm not letting you in. That's how serious Lieutenant Castillo was. And then he would say...
When does he arrive?
I think about not season 4. In season 1, I think maybe episode 5 or 6.
Oh, I'll keep watching it.
Yeah, it could be 7 or 8. I can't remember. And but he was definitely one of the greatest on-screen bosses ever made. And he would just walk in. He said to Don Johnson, when they were arguing on the set, they were saying, Don Johnson would call him Eddie. He goes, Eddie, please take it a bit easy. He goes, no, Don, come in, you knock on the door. They often argued, and that's why throughout most of the series they wouldn't even look at each other. But they kind of bury the hatchet over time. But that's just how serious he was.
That's cool. That's great.
And he was, because that's
method acting.
That was proper method acting. That was
always in character. Especially
Lieutenant, and he made changes as well. He goes, he wanted his character to be like I say, free of paperwork. Make sure they knock on the door and do not disturb him unless it was of the utmost importance.
Wow, he stamped his authority there, didn't he?
Oh, he did. He truly did. And then, and also how, because that's what they wanted to bring, the most seriousness of it, and he was just.
Oh, they did a good job with casting this guy.
Oh, Edward James Olmos, he's a legend. He was also famous for. He actually turns up in the movie The Green Hornet. In one point, and he's also in. He did a movie with Denzel Washington and Mark Wahlberg called Two Guns.
I've heard of that film.
We need to review that movie. It's a great movie, and he's actually in that as well.
It's a good duo as well, isn't it? Mark Wahlberg and Denzel Washington.
And again, we have to do a scene of. We have to do another podcast on great on-screen teams.
Yes.
We have to do that eventually.
Yes.
I think another good one, definitely, was Carl Weathers and Schwarzenegger in Predator. They made a great on-screen team.
You son of a...
Sorry, Nairobi, but he said that, not me. He's Dylan. Even now when I walk in the gym and I see him, and if he's not there, I'll ask one of the other lads, I'll go, where's Dylan? Oh, he's not here yet. They know who I'm on about. That's how funny it is. Yeah. Yeah, and then
the bicep off was like, no.
Definitely.
Anyway, carry on.
And then so when they brought him on, he apparently as time went by, there was a lot of fan mail sent saying, "Can you get rid of the lieutenant?" They wanted to get rid of the guy. Oh, he's too serious. He actually never smiles throughout the whole series. They were like, "Get rid of him. He's just horrible. That's just how he was."
He's a boss.
But I think if they got rid of Lieutenant Castillo,
would have turned out the way it did.
The show wouldn't have been great, regardless of how much the audience loved Crockett and Tubbs.
You need a great support cast.
He was it.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing about great shows. It's not always the greatness of the main duo.
Yeah.
It's always the people that are supporting them as well. You get rid of one of them, the show's going to fall apart. If you just one little character that is really just. That's the thing about a great show. Like, I know it's just going off topic, but it's like a great football team. Yeah. There's no one great player. In a great team, there's a team of great players, right? This is a great show. It had a great cast. It had great characters. Take one of them away.
Yeah, definitely.
And you're taking a piece of that greatness away.
Definitely.
Not going to turn out the show that it did turn out if you get rid of the lieutenant.
Yeah, I think, like I said, Lieutenant Castillo, absolute great character, and once you watch him yourself, you would actually say it yourself, Hayden, that the fact that they were glad that they got rid of Rodriguez and brought in Castillo.
Yeah.
And there's a good scene in it where he's so serious. The first episode when you see him, Tubbs gets in his face after they've found a dead body, and then they go to him, "Whose side are you on?" And he just looks at him very seriously and goes, "Don't ever come up to my face like this again, detective." And Tubbs backs off.
You get
got the reaction.
You get somebody like Tubbs. Yep.
Yeah.
Well done.
Got the reaction.
It was
got the Riley reaction.
Yeah. You know, if you get somebody like Tubbs, right, to back away from you, it's like getting somebody like Crockett to back away from you. You got to have some kind of, you know, malevolent aura that will just make you think, you know, I don't want to mess with this guy. These guys you don't mess with these guys anyway, Tubbs and Crockett. You're not the type of people to mess with.
No, definitely.
But if you got another guy that they think that they shouldn't mess with, this guy's on another level.
Definitely, yeah.
So, yeah, this guy sounds awesome. This guy really does sound good. I'm going to keep watching this show.
Yeah, I knew you had game hooked on this.
Yeah, I know why.
And then moving on to the season...
Do you know what I said?
The Wire, definitely. Now, moving on to season 2 opener. Now, season 2 was basically... There was a 2-hour opener and set in New York City. 2 hours, Aiden, can you believe that? So they showed part 1 one week and part 2 the next week. And the show is becoming extremely popular, not just with the men and women. And Don Johnson had a good funny story about it. He said that when they were filming the season 2 opener, it's set in New York City. And he kind of figured it out that, you know, we are quite famous now. People knew them. But he was always afraid to look up, because remember what I told you, he first had 5 failed pilots before he landed Miami Vice. And he said, he was kept thinking, I'm afraid to look up, I don't want people to look at me and they go, oh, he's just a joke, get out of here, get lost. And they were filming the scene in the financial district, Wall Street in New York City. They were filming it there. And there was a funny scene in it. They said, okay, the director said, you two have to stand here, him and Philip Michael Thomas. You have to run down the road, go around the corner and catch the bad guys. And they said, are you guys ready? He goes, yeah, ready. They see all the fans. There's these huge buildings everywhere. Huge buildings.
Skyscrapers, New York City.
And he goes, I can't wait for this reaction on this one. And I know I'm going to get it. I know I'm going to get it.
Go on.
And they said, right, action, run, take off. All the windows opened up on the buildings. Not everybody was, but how they cheered them was funny. They ran down the street and they said, action, and panties started raining out the windows. Panties, yeah. Not hundreds, but thousands of panties raining out on the street. He's like, Don Johnson and Phil Michael Thomas made it rain panties. And he goes, afterwards they're like, cut. And he goes, what the hell was all that from? And then he goes, and the director...
That's fame, my friend.
And then the director was actually the guy who played Starsky on Starsky and Hutch, Paul Michael Glaser. And he goes, well, it was a spontaneous raining of panties. And Don Johnson goes, are they fans of yours? He goes, no, they're fans of yours. I've done my job. He knew that from Starsky and Hutch. And then it's all right, we have to do it again. And then he goes, yeah, the raining of the panties.
Yeah, you don't want that on this.
And then he goes, they were bounced on falling on Philip's head. They're falling out. He goes, it took them half an hour to an hour to clear up all the panties, gather up all the panties, and move them to the side. We had to film the scene 2-3 times. He goes, I think they ran out of panties to throw on. He goes, how many can you have?
Spectacular.
How many panties can a person have on during work in the financial district of New York City?
God.
Which was just so funny. And women loved Don Johnson back in them days.
Yeah.
He was, he had everything going. He was a good-looking guy, great actor. Charisma. Same thing with Phil Michael Thomas.
Yeah, they made the perfect duo.
Like I said, they still, like, even now, they asked Don Johnson, what was it like working with Phil Michael Thomas? He goes, he was just the sweetest guy on the planet to work with. And he goes, even till now, we're still great friends.
Yeah. I mean, it's just... I can't say it enough. You know, it's all about chemistry.
Yeah, definitely.
And again, you know, I did see Denzel Washington and Mickey Rourke playing these two, but they might not have had the same chemistry. And these two's chemistry, even from watching from the first episode, I can see how great they are.
Definitely, and like
it shows on screen massively.
And definitely, even years later, Denzel Washington and Mickey Rourke did do a movie together, Man on Fire.
I have actually heard about that film.
Great movie.
And it looks amazing.
One of his best movies ever, Denzel Washington.
Really?
One of his best, yeah. One of the great characters he plays, and we need to review that movie as well.
That's something else, because he's made a lot of really good films.
Definitely. Now, moving on to, after, there's no more panties stories here now, Aiden.
Oh, okay.
Because we've run out of the panty stories. Like, they ran out of throwing panties on them too as the time went on.
The panty bank has gone bankrupt.
Yeah, bankrupted, yeah. And then, so moving on to the style of the show. Now, Miami Vice was famous for one thing, its style.
Yes.
Because back in them days, not many guys would wear what these guys were wearing until this show came out. It set the fashion trend for everybody. Men started adding colour to their wardrobes because of the show. And what happened was, how they came up with the idea, one of the designers came back from Italy and they brought back some samples of clothing and magazines, and Don Johnson looked at it for the first time and said, these kind of look like pajamas in a way. He actually said that. He actually said they kind of look like pajamas, because one thing, and then they said, oh, there was so many designers who were just coming up at the time. Giorgio Armani, Gianni Versace, they were coming
What
up.
about Dolce & Gabbana?
No, I don't think, I'm not so sure.
Were they later on?
I think they were more later on down the line.
Yeah.
And what happened was, and how
Louis Vuitton?
I think he was out, but I don't think he contributed anything to this. And so what happened was, when Don Johnson was talking about the fashions trend for Sonny Crockett, because Sonny Crockett was an iconic character, wasn't he? And he still is, even till today.
Yes.
They said that his iconic look was actually an accident. He goes, going to Miami it was like in July, which was like going to Cambodia any time of the year, because it was so hot. He goes, I was just there and I started stripping off things of my clothes. Like, I don't need to wear the socks, I don't need to wear the belt, I don't need to wear this. But he goes, he didn't like the clothes, and right away his first reaction was, they look like pajamas, which is quite funny. Yeah. And he wanted Sonny Crockett to look more like a cowboy-esque type character.
Yeah, he should have pulled that one off.
He would have pulled it off, and what happened was, he says, I don't want to look like a. He goes, he wanted to basically not look how he was looking now. It was a bit more denim, a bit more V-neck sweaters.
Yeah, that would
look awful. But they said the fact that if he hadn't done that, then he wouldn't have been the fashion icon as he was.
No, the fashion the clothes he wore in that, again, it set the trend.
Yeah, because he suggested
it made the show.
He did. He suggested Crockett looked more like a cowboy. He goes, a lot of denim, V-neck sweaters, cowboy boots, but he wasn't really sure about the heavy use of the pastel and bright colours that would fit his character's macho-ness. But even the producer Michael Mann and quite the other designers said the same thing. They saw him a bit more as a beach bum, but he relented, and because of the result of that, he became one of the biggest fashion icon symbols of the 1980s.
So you're glad he did it.
Yeah.
Because again, it made the show
what it was. Yeah, definitely. And even the buildings, if you look in that building, if you look at Tubbs, he's the same way.
Yeah, he's got style as well. He's cool.
Tubbs wears a bit more darker colours.
Yeah. Compared
to Crockett, who wears the more brighter colours. Like, Tubbs is a bit more. I think if you look at it,
he's a bit more conservative.
He is.
But he at the same time is unconservative. He's not. He's a bit, unorthodox conservative.
Yeah.
He's just. He wears those clothes differently, like he unbuttons a lot of buttons, and he just knows how to play it.
Yeah, he does.
A lot of people that wear his clothes, they'll have the straight posture. They'll be walking like, I don't know, business people, like professional.
Yeah.
But obviously, you don't do that. He just, every time a woman walks past, he's like, yeah, he just like.
When he's walking to see
on the pier. Is that when he meets Elvis for the first time?
That was the funniest scene ever.
It's like, Crockett!
Oh, Officer Tubbs, say hi to Elvis, former mascot of the University Football Gators. And then he goes, and also The watchdog of the St. Vitus dance, which is quite funny.
It's like that. You have an alligator on your pump?
And you're like, call him off, man. I don't even like alligator shoes. Oh, don't say that. Don't worry about him.
Don't worry about him, Elvis.
He's from New York.
He's a Yankee.
Yeah, and then so going into one thing, Sonny Crockett was very famous for his design of stubble. Did you know Don Johnson had to shave with a sideburn trimmer to maintain the 3-day stubble? And men started throwing away their razors to grow the 3-day stubble to match the fashionable outfits that they had to wear, like give the Miami Vice look. Then they rebranded.
That's a lot of effort.
Then they rebranded a trimmer, and I think they called it the Crockett trimmer at the time, or the Miami Vice trimmer, or something like that.
The Vice trimmer.
To like maintain the 3-day stubble, as Sonny Crockett would maintain all the time.
That's. Yeah, they could have sold off a lot of stuff. They could have sold off actual Miami Vice sunglasses. They probably did.
They did. Ray-Ban became one of the suppliers or sponsors of that show.
Who was the actual makers of the blazer?
I think they just basically. So here's a good question. It could have been Armani. It could have been Versace.
I'm gonna have a look.
Right.
Let's have a look. Right. So who do you think it is?
I think it definitely had to be Giorgio Armani. Because what they did was, because if you look at it, what they did was at the time they wanted to basically they had to set the men's fashion brand, didn't they? And even Giorgio Armani and Versace were trying to get their start up in America as well.
Right. Okay.
Here he goes.
Right,
he's going to get my reaction.
According to Miami Vice Online Forum, Sonny Crockett's shoes were made. I didn't want the shoes. Oh yeah, were made exclusively by footwear brands that included Charles Jourdan, Sperry, and Two Boot. Okay, but that's his shoes.
Yeah.
Crockett's blazer type. Okay, here we are. Wears. I've got to go onto a forum now. Why is it anything easy?
Nothing ever is.
Right, carry on.
Yeah,
this is annoying me.
Going on to another thing now, the cars. One other thing,
Cars.
So if you remember one thing, everything that they confiscate to maintain their department approved cover, looking like drug dealers, acting like them as well.
Yeah.
Basically anything they confiscated off the bad guys, whether it would be money, cars, planes, clothes, they would give it to Crockett and Tubbs to maintain their cover. So even time they would walk out, they're not looking like police officers.
No, because it only takes one person to go, hey, you're Burnett.
Yeah.
But you're not Burnett, who are you? And then that's it, he's done.
Yeah, he's done.
So you gotta look the part. You know, if you think about it like this, right, people actually do this in real life. Just imagine the strain that will take on your real life, and it shows in the program. It shows in the show. His marriage has deteriorated. His relationship with his son. He's late for his birthday party, you know, and he comes there and he's tired. He's drained from the long days of work. I love how they transfer that onto the show.
Yeah.
How he loves his job, but you can tell that he misses his wife and his kid. And, you know, again, that's what I saw on the first episode. And, you know, when he hugs his son.
Yeah.
And
he's glad to see him.
Yeah, and he's just like, oh, I love you, son. And you think, oh, what happened? But when those two have a talk, him and his ex-wife,
yeah.
She says to him about the job. And it's like, you know, your job happened. You know, the job took over. And it's sad, because that probably happens in real life, doesn't it?
It definitely does, yeah. And like, yeah, because it can take a toll on everything, innit? And the people you're supposed to be there for, you can't be there for them, innit?
Yeah.
And, you know, you don't do it intentionally, but sometimes things just fall out of place, don't they?
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's just, you know, I mean, I can safely say this, you know, I could never do a job like that, because just imagine, and you won't get any sleep. You get a phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning. We found this guy. We need you to come in. You're like, oh man, I'm tired. So are we. Get in. And then, all right.
Yeah, definitely. And then, so you also have so moving into their cars. Look at the cars they will drive. The Ferrari Daytona. Did you know that wasn't a real Ferrari Daytona that they used for the show? It wasn't a real car.
It was bodywork.
It was bodywork.
Right. Okay.
It's good because what happened was, it was a modified Corvette, and the Ferrari executives were so upset that this angered them so much because it was gaining a lot of popularity. And what they did was they provided the series with their new car at the time, which was the Ferrari Testarossa.
Okay.
And you saw the clip that I showed you when Crockett gets the Testarossa. What did you think of the car?
Man, you know me. I'm not a massively materialistic person.
Yeah.
But when I saw that car, it just suits the whole surroundings of the place. It suits Miami, and if you're in a hot place like that, you need a convertible.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
So, I love the car. I love it, especially the sound it makes when he's chasing Tubbs on the boat, and he's going in and out of the cars. And
that was a Firebird he was driving at the time.
Oh right,
the Ferrari's parked up, and that was a
good scene though as well, because when he catches Tubbs as well, and they have that bit of a scuffle on the boat. But man, that car was just immaculate, man. It was just, and it suits him, doesn't it?
It did, yeah.
He suits any car. He would suit a Mini. he would suit a Fiesta.
He would
suit any car.
He would definitely.
He would suit a tank probably.
Well, he probably did one. He probably drove one when he was in the military, Crockett.
Yeah.
And so, also talking about the behind the scenes talk now. Did you know Sonny Crockett's character? He volunteers for military service in Vietnam. And in real life, Don Johnson attempted to join the U.S. Marines at the time, but however, he was rejected due to a criminal conviction for drug possession. But that kind of sorted himself out afterwards.
Got it.
Go for it.
In the mid-1980s, Armani men's suits gained worldwide attention when they were worn by actors John Johnson and Philip Michael Thomas. So we can safely say that the blazer was made by Armani.
Definitely, yeah.
So if we're wrong, tell us in the comment section. But it looks like an Armani.
It does, yeah, definitely.
I mean, look. I've got a picture of Tubbs and Crockett here, and that's definitely an Armani.
Definitely,
look at that.
And did you know Don Johnson was ready to leave the show at the end of season 2, and the studio had lined up another actor to take over the role of Sonny Crockett. Was
it contract discussions that
I think it was, because what happened was the only one who was not happy with the solution was the executive producer Michael Mann, who convinced him to stay on, and as a result he became the best producer. Oh yeah, definitely. I've seen some of the movies he's done as well.
Again, this is going off topic, but a great show, a great film that I love. It starred Tom Cruise and Jamie Foxx. Collateral. That was a great film.
Great movie. Probably one of Tom.
He directed that.
Yeah, just like he directed the movie version of Miami Vice.
Yeah.
And because of that, as a result of him staying on, Don Johnson became the best paid actor in the history of a television series. And Don Johnson also turned down roles such as the lead.
Well, back then, the history back then.
Yeah.
Not now.
I think yeah, it says here, yeah. And he turned down the leads in the movies The Untouchables and Die Hard.
Whoa! It just shows you how great this TV series was.
Yeah,
to actually turn down those, because The Untouchables is a legendary film.
We have to review it.
Yeah, and obviously
that's the Chicago way.
Yeah, that film is just paramount, isn't it, to the film industry?
Oh, definitely.
And then you've got the other show that you just mentioned as well,
Die Hard.
Well, you're gonna turn those two films down. Yeah. Well, who was he gonna play? Was he gonna play Alan Rickman's character?
No, he was gonna play John McClane.
He was gonna play John. He would have suited him.
I think he would have suited Elliot Ness in The Untouchables. But then again, Kevin Costner did a great job.
Yeah, but he would have suited John McClane.
So did Mel Gibson was actually up for that role as well.
No,
I think Gibson would have been great he would have been a good John McClane. Yeah. Mickey Rourke was actually up for that as well.
I don't see him as John McClane.
No, because he's from New York.
Yeah, but I definitely want to see him as John. You want John McClane. He didn't have the. For me, Mickey Rourke didn't suit the John McClane yippee-ki-yay persona, and I don't think he would have sounded.
No, yeah, in real life he actually has a bit of a New York accent.
Yeah, but I mean that same yippee-ki-yay.
Yeah, that's true.
It wouldn't have sounded good. It wouldn't have sounded. It wouldn't have caught on as good as it would if Bruce Willis would have said it. But to be honest with you, look, you know, it wouldn't have been the same anyway if Bruce Willis didn't play him. You know, he made that guy, didn't he?
Yeah, that's true.
But Crockett, I mean, Don Johnson, I think would have suited him.
No, definitely he would have.
Would have suited anything.
And also, here's the other thing: Michael Mann's inspiration for giving the show the pastel color scheme was after a visit to a paint shop. Yeah, I got the reaction out of even. He went to a paint shop, had a look around, and goes, "This paint has to be a character on the show."
It just shows you, though, the smallest things always make the big
impacts.
Big impacts, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. There was a lot of actors who basically got their start on Miami Vice. A lot of actors had their start on Miami Vice, and I'm going to name a few out for you, and you're going to be shocked for this as well. You had Benicio del Toro, who went on to winning the Oscar. I can't remember for which movie, but he was on there. You know Benicio del Toro from The Wolfman. He played Tanale Tivan, the Collector in the Marvel Universe.
Wow.
Yeah, he went on to play him. You also had actors such as Chris Rock appear on it. Yeah. You had Wesley Snipes appear on it.
Wow.
Yeah. Bruce Willis. Got an interesting story about Bruce Willis. Ben Stiller came on it. Julia Roberts, Viggo Mortensen.
Wow.
Liam Neeson as well, and Lawrence Fishburne. Most of them got their starts on Miami Vice.
That is one iconic list of people right there.
And look what they went on to become
exactly.
And play. Lou Diamond Phillips was on it as well. I'm not sure if you know who he is. He was in Young Guns. He played the Native American in there. Yeah, he played Richie Valens in the movie La Bamba.
I've seen that either.
Right, great movie that was. Yeah.
Okay, and I'll take your word for it.
Thank you. So moving on to going on to Bruce Willis's role. Don Johnson actually helped Bruce Willis get the role on this. I think it was in one episode where he's playing an arms dealer, and what happened was sometimes Don Johnson would go to New York for parties, and there he met a bartender,
Bruce Willis,
and it was Bruce Willis. And Bruce Willis, he said he had a great sense of humor. He had great stories to tell. And I asked him, "What do you really want to do?" He goes, "I want to be an actor." He goes, "You want to be an actor?" He goes, "All right." He called up his producers and says, "Can you fly this guy out to Miami and give him a chance on the show?" He goes, "All right, we'll do it on your behalf." And ever since then, they've been the best of friends, Bruce Willis and Don Johnson. He goes, because he helped me get my start in acting. And because of that, he then started auditioning onto the shows such as Moonlighting, which kind of introduced the world.
That catapulted him into
but not as much as Die Hard.
No, but Die Hard that catapulted him into film stardom.
Yeah.
Moonlighting, obviously, that gave him the start, the kick into that section of the industry. And then all of a sudden, John McClane pops up and he's like, "Yeah, this is me."
It was one of the greatest scenes ever made.
Yeah, it's one of the greatest films. And I think they did a bit too many of them, but yeah.
But still, it was quite good. Okay, so moving on to favourite scenes. What was your favourite scene of the pilot episode?
The favourite scene, one of the favourite scenes. My favourite scene is the final drive scene. Is where they go into the destination to do the to get Calderon.
Yeah.
And one of the best songs. I mean, I don't care what anybody says. This song is amazing. I can feel it calling in the air tonight. Oh Lord. You've got that. You've got a sexy convertible. You've got two amazing guys in there, and you've got them just going towards, this could be their last day on Earth.
Yeah,
that's why Crockett stops and talks to his wife for a bit. Like, I just need to ask you questions. Like, what is it? It's like, did what we have, was it real? And she goes, you damn right it's real. Why? What's the matter? Nothing's the matter. And then I've got to go. Puts down the phone, and you're like, man, it had the whole feel to it. That was my favourite scene.
Especially then like Tubbs is loading up his shotgun, and Crockett's like a few seconds later, how much time do we have? 25 minutes. And but right there, they've developed that big trust, which was quite good.
Yeah.
One of my favourite scenes is actually when they first meet for the first time.
Yeah, well, it's parallel,
it's that deal.
Yeah.
And then they're punching each other on the boat afterwards, and he goes, "Don't move, Miami, Vice." And he goes, "Congratulations, pal, New York." What? And he's like,
yes.
And he goes, "Oh, half the dealers turn out to be cops. Me, Scotty, and this guy all the way from Fun City," which is quite funny as well when he says that. And so that was quite a good scene as well.
What about the other one where they're on Crockett's boat?
Yeah.
And Crockett smacks him in the face.
Yeah.
That
unintentionally.
And then Tubbs gets up. He's like, and then you think he's not going to hit him. Then he hits him back.
Yeah.
And then they're both just like looking at each other as if, it's.
Did you really? Yeah.
Yeah. We actually made we're good partners.
Now we're even.
Yeah. It's like you. That's when you're like, these two are great together. And he goes, "Have we got any ice?" And then that's when he goes down.
Yeah,
and
he's got that smirk on his face like this. And then he's like,
Crockett! Crockett! Hey, Crockett! He's like, "Hey, meet Elvis." And then he says about the American football team and everything else. And he's like, "That is great."
And then he's like, "Do me a favour, will you feed old Elvis his breakfast? He's got that big fish." And he's like,
I don't even like alligators. I don't even like alligator shoots.
Oh, don't say that. Don't worry about him, Elvis. He's from New York. And then he's ticking. He's like, "Yeah." And an alarm clock, and he goes, keeps on ticking. He's like, "Don't say that." He goes, "Hey, take that." And he throws him that big fish, and he's like just chomping on it right away.
You just hear the alligator hissing. He's like, Crockett. Love that part.
And that was another good scene as well. And where Crockett's gone to confront that old partner of his.
Yep. And
he says, "Why did you become corrupt when we were partners for so many years?" He goes, "Oh, this happened, that happened. I was so behind on mortgage, so behind on medical bills, so behind on this."
Scene.
It was a good scene because you kind of see the fact that why did this once honest police officer who didn't have the intention to...
He was in debt.
He was in so much debt, and then they sent him a briefcase full of money. He has the compliments of Mr. Calderon. Yeah. Calderon, great character, even though you don't see much of him in that, but he's a great character.
He made him live it, and I love it when Crockett says, so tell me, what's his name?
Scotty.
So tell me, Scotty, how much did it take for them to buy you? He goes, 10 grand. And he's like, ah. He just shakes his head, doesn't he? Oh no, 90 grand.
Yeah.
Was it? It's like 90 grand. And he just goes, he just sees him, and you see the cop coming from behind.
Yeah.
And then he opens the door and just drags him out.
When Tubbs is like stopping him.
Yeah, and he goes, it's like, I trusted you. And he goes to hit him, doesn't he? And then obviously Tubbs is like holding him back.
Yeah.
And you think, oh man. But that's reality, isn't it? I mean, they do a job like this, and what they get paid for it,
which is peanuts, practically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and okay, so a good favourite quote you like to say. Go on, let's go on with the quotes.
Okay.
Yeah, here he goes. One of my favourite quote was definitely when he says, "Don't worry about him, Elvis. He's from New York." Because it's kind of funny that Elvis, how has he travelled to see all this sort of thing? And that was a good one. And another good one was, the beginning, where you see Crockett for the first time, that camera's moving up, and you're seeing the bright white suit and everything. He's like,
it's a great scene. 500
street corners in Greater Miami, and Gumbier has to pick ours. And he's like, the partner at the time, "Do you think he's going to show? He better. I was up till 5 a.m. this morning trading shots of tequila with this bozo to close the deal." and he's got a headache, and he's taking painkillers, and he's like knocking them down. That's how people used to take painkillers back in them days. Just talk, and then drink water, knock their head back, and that's it.
They still do it.
You still do it?
No, they'll still do it. People will still do that.
I think yes, that's true. It still becomes an overall trend. It's
more like a style, isn't it?
Yeah,
Imagine wearing those kind of clothes, and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna look the part by necking these painkillers. And the next minute, you're like, oh my head.
That's true. You kind of like give yourself a bit of whiplash.
Yeah, well, you doing that, you will, yeah. That will arching your neck like that.
Definitely.
I've got a bit of a trivia for you.
Go for it.
Okay, so at around 6 minutes, the pilot features one of the longest pre-credit sequences of the entire series.
Yeah.
In which the pre-credit sequence is over 6.5 minutes long.
Wow.
It's not bad, is it?
It was. I can remember that opening sequence. It was quite good. I mean, you got to admit, the theme song was absolutely amazing. Dun, 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 dun,
It's just the whole thing about the show is just screams cool.
It is. Everything was cool. And it's like, I can remember one episode where Switek and Zito are doing surveillance work on a drug dealer, and then Zito goes to him, what do these guys do all day apart from buy clothes? Is that all they do? He goes, no, they buy cars as well. And they go, and there was another good scene I like in that was, you know, when Scotty's mentioning to him saying, I'm only clearing 30 grand in a year, and I'm getting shot out by people who blow that much money in a restaurant in a month.
Yes.
They say that, don't they?
Yes, they do. I mean, there's a lot of good lines in this. Favourite quote of mine is, so it's the ending.
Yeah.
It goes, I guess you got a job. I guess you got a job to get back to up there in New York City, AAT'S. It's like, get out of here, Crockett. You kidding? After a little show I put on down there hits the fan, I'll be lucky to get back on payroll as a meter maid. I just love that part, and it's like, and that's when he says, "Have you ever considered a career switch in Southern law enforcement?" And then they both just laugh.
Yeah.
And then they drive off, don't they? You know, that's it. And you're like, well, I guess he's staying.
Yeah, because that was quite cool, and you see the fact that you know that they are staying because of the
He can't go back. He's not allowed back, is he?
Well, he had to forge documents to get down to
yes.
get down there.
So that's it. He's done. He ain't getting back up there.
No, because he's done a good job, and it's like
yeah, they want him back.
No,
they want him there, don't they?
No,
he must well stay. Plus, it's Miami, and why would you want to go from Miami? Well, to be honest with you, if anybody who doesn't know me, I don't like hot weather. So if I was Tubbs, I would probably go back to New York because I can't stand the heat. I really can't.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so moving on a little bit, what the legacy of the show left behind, because like I say, not only did it leave a great legacy behind of fashion, because it became an overall iconic show that would live on forever. Anyone ask you, did you ever watch Miami Vice? Yeah, it was a great show. What did you like about it? The characters, Sonny Crockett, Ricardo Tubbs.
Yeah.
It was just the way it was just like that. It went on for so many years.
5 years?
5 years, yeah. But even the trend of it was absolutely amazing as well, which was quite a great scene where you see like I say, you see the impact that show had on people, not just the city of Miami, but people all over the world who would just tune in every Friday night. Yeah,
of Miami.
Definitely just skyrocketed.
You know, you're going to go to Miami, right, and they will still be making money from it.
Oh, definitely.
Just imagine the merchandise, the clothes to look like those characters, and the sets. It's like Miami Vice was filmed here.
Yeah.
Oh, let's go over there. You know, they'll pay a fortune to go to a part of the set of that TV show, you know, and imagine seeing Crockett's boat.
Well,
you know,
the Ferrari.
And the Ferrari. You know, it's just everything about that show for that city. You know, they will still be raking that money in.
Oh, definitely, it was.
I mean, you've introduced somebody to Miami Vice. That's another person that I want to go visit the set. It's such a good show.
Definitely. So, did you ever watch the movie reboot?
Did a long time ago. I can't really remember much of it. So it just shows how much of a market left really. I know Michael Mann. you know, had a big part to play in it. He directed it, right?
Yeah, he did.
For what I can remember, I didn't really like it that much, but I didn't really know much about the TV show. I thought it was just, to be honest with you, I didn't know about the TV show at that time. I was 19 when it came out, so I didn't really know much about the whole thing. But again, I didn't really like it that much. I love the soundtrack.
Oh, the soundtrack was
Jay-Z, you know, Linkin Park.
Oh, yeah.
You know, shout out to our friend Tyler. You know, it's just, man, the soundtrack, they had all the best songs from that era.
Even the reboot of In the Air Tonight was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
By non-point.
It's just, there was a lot of amazing songs on that film because it, just like the TV series, it had all of...
Yeah, and that's true. I mean, what was one thing I wasn't too keen on about about the movie was, I think in a way they kind of screwed up Sonny Crockett.
Mm.
I think Colin Farrell, great actor, don't get me wrong.
He is, but he just didn't suit Crockett.
I don't think he suited... I think Matthew McConaughey would have been a much better Sonny Crockett.
And I do...
He's got that southern look to him.
I do agree with you, because back then, McConaughey was playing, you know, kind of like a comedy roles, wasn't he?
He was a bit, yeah.
Until he moved into more serious roles, like the Dallas Buyers Club, Interstellar,
yeah,
which is a really good film. So he would have, you know, Bradley Cooper might have been a really good, you know, Crockett.
No, I think actually 3 actors who they considered. Say yes or no to them if you think they would have been good.
Okay.
Tom Cruise.
No.
Brad Pitt.
Yes.
Yeah, I think Brad Pitt. Yeah. And Matthew McConaughey.
Yes. So no to Tom Cruise.
Yeah, and
Brad Pitt and Matthew McConaughey. Definitely
and
Brad Pitt.
3 main actors who they kind of considered to play Tubbs.
Okay.
Will Smith.
No.
Denzel Washington in the movie.
Yes.
Definitely. Samuel Jackson.
Yes.
He would have been. I think he would have been the cooler version of Tubbs.
Oh, hell yeah, he would have been amazing.
I mean, Jamie Foxx was still okay.
Yeah, but he's not Samuel L. Jackson.
That's true. Yeah, he's Nick Fury. That's right.
Come on, why didn't they do that?
Yeah, exactly.
Or was he in another part? Was he playing something else?
I don't know, to be honest. But like I say,
this was way before Nick Fury came.
Yeah, definitely he was. Yeah, this was before the Marvel Universe came to fruition. But yeah, but still, it was a great. It was still a good overall. The only good thing I liked about the movie was the soundtrack was quite good.
The fashion was good.
The fashion was
really
good. But
good.
they kind of in a way thought for a split second.
And the car was good.
Oh, I love that Ferrari.
Yeah.
The Ferrari was amazing.
And again, the soundtrack was good. It kind of it did the TV show justice in that aspect. You know, the fashion, the setting, the car, the everything about the style. But the soundtrack was immense.
Oh,
man.
it definitely was.
So just like the TV show, the soundtrack was amazing.
It definitely
Can't go wrong with Linkin Park and Jay-Z.
No, you couldn't. You couldn't, definitely.
But
like I said,
cool. Do
you want more?
Yeah, let's.
and then so overall, what do you rate Miami Vice on a scale of 1 to 10? I'm talking the TV series.
From the first episode, I rate it 8 out of 10.
I give it a 9 out of 10 because, like I said, it was my favorite cop show of all time. And like you had the iconic characters like Ricardo Tubbs, Sonny Crockett. You know, those characters will be remembered forever, and nobody but Don Johnson felt Michael Thomas could have played them.
No.
I remember in an episode of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air where they had there was an episode where, do you remember the butler Jeffrey, legendary for his sarcasm? And
he was a great guy.
And he wore the entire throughout the whole series. He wore the same uniform.
He always wore the same uniform, and he always had that swagger and that smirk.
Yeah,
he was. That smirk.
And he was cool. And one funny thing was, there was an episode where he came out with the bright, like a beige yellow type blazer.
Jeffrey.
Wait. With a purple turtleneck and the same colour trousers, the beige, so yellowish.
Yeah.
And he walks into the kitchen and he was talking to Uncle Phil and Aunt Viv, and Will looks at him and goes, "Hey, is that G or Philip Michael Thomas?" I was like, you are kind of dressed like him there at one point.
Yes.
It was perfect timing when he says that. Is that G or Phil Michael Thomas? Well, yeah.
That did sound like a Will Smith laugh.
No, that was more Eddie Murphy.
Oh,
And okay, but hopefully next week we'll be back on Beverly Hills Cop 2.
We will.
Definitely the best one out of the series.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely the best
I never
one.
got to do the third one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hey, it's a good Dave.
Go away. Bring back the other actors. Well, that's all the time we have for today's podcast. Aidan, again, thank you very much for taking the time out to join
Always a pleasure.
Thanks, bro. And don't forget to follow us on social media. Don't forget to click subscribe, turn on notifications, as we're going to have more TV series, trilogy, sagas, standalones.
Yes.
Everything's going to be all included there together as well. And just appreciate everybody's help and all that. And we thank you for your support all along the way. And we hope we have your support for the foreseeable future.
Yep. Well, of course we.
Yeah, definitely.
Of course they will.
Definitely.
You're missing out
on the fun. So, and also don't forget, Aidan's got a website coming through pretty soon. And we'll just stay tuned in for that. And we'll see you in the next podcast. And don't forget, the AAT'S rock.
They do rock.
What this guy agreed with.
What this guy said.
Thanks. I'll see you next time.
See you soon, my friend.
Thank you.